the main news from the TSN team right now. And a reminder for you, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and hit the bell so you don't miss our episodes. The Russians struck Kharkiv with guided aerial bombs. 9 people were injured. 15 private houses were damaged, according to Kharkiv Mayor Ihor Terekhov. The strike hit the industrial and Nemyshlyansky districts. At night, the occupiers attacked Ukraine with strike drones, ballistic missiles, and guided aerial bombs. Sumy region came under heavy shelling. Explosions were heard in Poltava, Dnipropetrovsk, and Donetsk regions. Chernihiv, Slavutich, and the northern districts of Chernihiv region were left without electricity. There, the Russians hit an energy facility and a heat supply facility. Water utilities are switching to backup power. In Chernihiv, water delivery is being organized and points of invincibility are being set up. In Cherkasy region, the enemy attacked critical infrastructure. The fire at the facility was extinguished. Residential buildings were damaged, and there is no information about casualties. In Antonivka, Kherson region, the Russians killed an elderly woman, and in Osokorivka, they wounded a man. Explosives were dropped on people from drones, damaging private and apartment buildings. 16 people were injured in Dnipropetrovsk region due to attacks on Pavlohrad and the surrounding area. The enemy launched missiles and drones there. Shaheds were flying over the city in broad daylight at an altitude of several dozen meters. 15 of the wounded were hospitalized, 4 of them in serious condition. In Pavlohrad, an infrastructure facility was damaged and a fire broke out. As a result of the drone strike, a fire broke out in the Verbkivska community. In the Nikopol district, Russian shelling damaged an agricultural company, an apartment building, private houses, a gas pipeline, and power lines. The President of the United States claims that he did not demand that the President of Ukraine completely hand over Donbas to Russia in exchange for a truce. The Financial Times, citing its own sources, previously reported that during negotiations last Friday, Donald Trump demanded that the non-occupied parts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions be handed over, and in return to receive some parts of the Kherson region. And Zaporizhzhia, which are currently under occupation, allegedly this is a new proposal from Putin that he voiced during a phone conversation last Thursday. Trump, according to Financial Times sources, threatened that otherwise Putin would destroy all of Ukraine. However, as the article states, Volodymyr Zelensky was still able to convince the White House host that the fighting should stop along the current front line. But Trump told reporters that things were different.
No, we never discussed that. We believe that they should simply stop at the current front line, where it runs now. Right now you have a front line. Otherwise, it's very difficult to conduct negotiations. If you start saying you take this and we take that, a lot of different options arise. That's why I say they should just stop at the front line right now. Go home, stop killing people, and that's it.
Cover with sanctions what hasn't been covered yet. Lithuania's top diplomat revealed what might be included in the 20th package of restrictions against Russia. European Union countries may introduce additional tariffs on Russian and Belarusian goods, as well as sanctions against Russian energy and financial institutions. He emphasized that some sectors are still not covered by sanctions, so Europeans need to work on further restrictions. As for the 19th package of sanctions, according to the European Union's chief diplomat, it could be adopted as early as Thursday. There has been a sharp increase in the registration of Ukrainians in Germany. The number of applications for protection has increased tenfold. This is according to data from the country's Ministry of Internal Affairs. Many of the newly arrived are young men up to 22 years old. TSN correspondent Natalia Fibrig found out how they are being received in Germany.
This bus brings residents from the largest refugee shelter in Berlin, Tegel. The young men are not too eager to show their faces, although they haven't done anything illegal. Many of them left Ukraine when young men under 22 were allowed to leave.
There is a huge influx of people. Right now, a lot of young people have arrived. A lot of young guys, aged 22 to 22. 23 and a bit older.
We also meet Oksana at the bus stop. Entry to the shelter in Tegel is forbidden to outsiders, and special permission is required for filming. Oksana lived in Tegel for 2 months and has already received a place in a dormitory. She will go there together with her son Ivan. They came to Berlin from Lviv.
We left our jobs and also brought our son here. My son will turn 18. That's why we left earlier. I go to a language school. I'm learning German.
What do you want to study?
I want to apply for fashion design.
The young man confirms that many guys from Ukraine have gone to Germany.
There were almost no people there at all. Very few people. And then my mom and I went to visit my dad for a few days. Came back, and the whole place was just full of men, guys.
The young man's observation is also confirmed by official statistics. The Berlin Office for Refugee Affairs has counted. The largest number of Ukrainians arrived in the German capital in September. That's 65% more than in the previous months.
In September, there was a clear increase in the number of arrivals from Ukraine by 65%. In August, there were about 700 people, but in September, there were already over 1,100. And now it's mid-October, and we can see that this figure will be high again, so the trend is clearly continuing.
In the fall, the number of asylum seekers from Ukraine has always increased, says the spokesperson. This is so-called seasonal migration, to spend the winter without shelling and power outages and perhaps then return home. However, this time, a large group of asylum seekers are young Ukrainian men.
We can clearly see now that among the newly arrived, there are significantly more young men aged 18 to 22, about 200 out of the 1,100 who arrived in September. So there would have been an increase anyway, but it is this group that is now noticeably affecting the overall picture.
The sharp increase in the number of asylum seekers is worrying officials. The largest refugee camp, Tegel, is about to be rebuilt according to new European regulations. They want to make it more compact and move people from tents into containers. By the end of the year, the plan was to resettle as many shelter residents from here as possible. However, with the new wave of registrations, they may not be able to cope. According to the agency, 2/3 of Ukrainians registering here have nowhere to live. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, Ukrainians seeking refuge in European Union countries have been able to apply for temporary protection. This status grants the right to reside, work, study, and receive social assistance. These are more favorable conditions than those for asylum seekers. However, the German authorities are preparing to reduce social assistance for Ukrainians. And this is a popular move. According to surveys, 2/3 of Germans, 66%, are against providing Ukrainian refugees with so-called citizens' financial assistance. And more than 60% of respondents believe that Ukrainian men of conscription age should return to Ukraine. Ahmed came to Berlin from Mariupol after the city was occupied. And although he doesn't like everything here, he isn't planning to return for now.
No, I've been here for almost 4 years. When the war started, I stayed in Mariupol for 3 or 4 months during the war. After the war, I left the occupation and came here. Well, Tegel, it's just not the same. No, well, they process things quickly. They say the conditions are better there. In 2 or 3 days, they settle people into the Heims. There are a lot of people from Ukraine. Many of them are 22 years old, and they let a lot of people through. Well, they live here. Some people like it, some don't. Well, if you want to, come here. They've opened a kitchen there.
Well, it's obvious that people will leave when they have the opportunity. It's all sad, very sad.
Meanwhile, the European Union is preparing to end temporary protection for Ukrainians in March 2027. After that, our people will be able to stay in Germany, definitely those who are studying or working. And for those who decide to return home, the Germans promise support, though they haven't specified what kind yet. From Berlin, Natalia Fibrik and Denis Savchenko, TSN 1+1.
This is a TSN broadcast. The most important news as of 9 a.m. You are watching TSN News. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave comments on the broadcast. And now I continue. Ukrainian sailors have neutralized an enemy anti-ship naval mine in the Black Sea. The explosive device was discovered in the city where it posed a threat to civilian shipping and coastal infrastructure. One of the units of the Ukrainian Navy destroyed the mine by means of a controlled detonation. During the autumn storms, the explosive danger in the Black Sea increases. A week ago, after a storm, 8 naval mines had to be neutralized at once as they were washed ashore by the waves. A major accident occurred on the Kyiv-Chop highway. Near Zhytomyr, 5 cars collided at once. One of the drivers was hospitalized. At first, a truck and a car, both traveling in the same direction, were involved in the accident. This was initially established by the police. After that, the truck veered into the oncoming lane and collided with a minivan. Then 2 more cars crashed into it. The minivan driver was taken to the hospital with injuries. A cocaine smuggling operation worth over 18.5 million hryvnias was stopped. law enforcement managed to block a drug smuggling route that was transporting narcotics from Spain to Kyiv. This was reported on the Office of the Prosecutor General's page. It is known that the powder was delivered disguised as ordinary postal parcels, and the operation to uncover the illegal scheme lasted several months. Investigators managed to seize about 3 kilograms, which is approximately 3,000 doses that could have ended up on the black market. 2 suppliers were detained. The drug dealers face up to 12 years in prison with confiscation of property. Andriy Yatsenko, a member of the band Green Grey, better known as Diesel, has passed away. The singer was 55 years old. Green Grey was considered one of the leaders of Ukrainian alternative music. The band's peak popularity came at the end of the 1990s. At that time, almost the entire country was singing along to their hits, Pід дощем and Emigrant. In 2010, the band's musicians supported candidate Yanukovych in the elections. A few years later, the guitarist of Green Grey was imprisoned for drug distribution. The band became mired in scandals and problems. Later, the musicians apologized for their mistakes. And at the beginning of the full-scale war, Diesel even took up arms and defended the country. In 10 days, the band's nationwide tour was supposed to begin, where they planned to present their most famous song, Pід дощем, in Ukrainian translation. He recreated an icon that is over 1,000 years old. The head of the Institute of National Memory presented the reconstruction of a shrine that likely belonged to the son of Volodymyr the Great, the Prince of Chernihiv, Mstislav. The idea to recreate the icon arose more than 15 years ago, when the historian was working with the collection of seals belonging to the Bishop of Chernihiv, Antony. The original icon has not survived to our time, and it was likely lost during the Mongol invasion. But the reconstructed icon will be returned to the Transfiguration Cathedral in Chernihiv.
This icon did not exist. No one knew about it or had ever heard of it. And thanks to the personal seal on which it was depicted, we were able to restore it. This is about the restoration of the entire sacred space of Rus and its iconography. Ultimately, I want to emphasize that this is not an isolated case. And soon we will begin working on restoring other icons.
This is a precedent that was set by Mr. Alexander. And this precedent is very important. It profoundly relates to the essential concept of continuity, to the comprehensive understanding of this historical continuity by modern Ukraine, and indeed to the enduring tradition of Rus Ukraine.
With that, I'll wrap up this episode, but there's still a lot of interesting things ahead. And to make sure you don't miss anything, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. Have a great day, everyone.